Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. If you're fascinated by the hidden mechanics of human behavior and, how the tiniest actions can ripple out into massive changes, well, you are definitely in the right place. Today, we're diving straight into a story called The Stewardship of Space, Lessons in Collective Responsibility. We'll see how a perfectly normal school outing completely transformed into this profound lesson on behavior, modeling, and honestly, how we all interact with the spaces around us. So, let's kick things off with a question. It seems super simple on the surface, but man, it gets complicated the closer you look. Who is actually responsible for cleaning up our messes? I mean, sure, we all know the textbook answer. It's we are, right? But what does our day-to-day behavior actually say about us? Are we out there practicing everyday stewardship? Or are we just sort of passively waiting around for someone else to step in? Part 1, a messy field trip. Our story starts off in this totally idyllic setting. Picture this, 3 school buses rolling up to a beautiful local park. The goal is simple. Just let the kids spend the day hanging out with friends and observing nature. And for a while, the timeline looks great. They arrive at 9 a.m., play, have a great time, and by noon, they're settling down for a lunch provided by the park management. But then, fast forward to 1 p.m. The kids pack up to leave, and this picture-perfect field trip, it totally dissolves into a public nuisance. They end up leaving just this massive trail of litter behind them.
Now, the park management didn't just quietly sweep it up. Nope. They photographed the whole mess and sent the evidence straight to the school's principal. And they attached a pretty blunt note saying, "Teach your children to keep public places clean." Yikes, right? The principal was absolutely mortified, deeply ashamed. So he hands the issue over to Ratna Madam, the head of the children's section, and tasks her with fixing this behavioral issue.
Part 2, the teacher's realization. So, naturally, an emergency staff meeting is called. All the teachers are throwing out standard solutions, mostly stuff like, putting up posters. But Ratna Madam pushes back. She realizes that sticking a passive piece of paper on a wall just isn't going to fundamentally change human behavior. She hits on this incredibly deep truth about education, stating, our behavior has to teach it to the students. She absolutely nailed it. Teaching responsibility isn't about lecturing. It's about active modeling. You literally have to show children what responsibility looks like in everyday action. And this brings up such a fascinating psychological contrast. Think about it. The expected behavior is that kids independently clean up their own messes because, well, they're told to. But look at the model behavior. What are adults actually showing them? Without even realizing it, the adults were basically programming these kids to ignore their messes by subtly demonstrating that some authority figure or custodian is always going to swoop in and clean up after them. Part 3, a lesson in responsibility. Ratna Madam decides to put this exact philosophy to the test the very next day. Class wraps up and a student named Sudha steps forward and politely asks, "Madam, should I clean the blackboard with the duster today?" It sounds like such a mundane little moment, but it actually sets the stage for a massive shift.
Ratna Madam surprises everyone by immediately saying no. Then, in front of a class of 35 students, she makes this incredible admission. She says, "I have written on the board and I need to clean it. I know I have asked my students in the past to do it and it was the wrong thing." I mean, wow. Even when Sudha insists she doesn't mind helping out, the teacher holds her ground. She absolutely refuses to pass her own mess off to her students.
And then she drops the hammer and connects it right back to the field trip. She tells the class, "In a way, we taught you that someone else will clean up your mess. Unfortunately, the same was replicated by you all in the park." That's a heavy realization, right? She showed them that because the teachers had routinely handed off their own cleanup duties, the kids just internalized this hierarchy where someone else always handles the trash.
Because of this really open, honest dialogue, Sudha completely grasps the core lesson. She beautifully summarizes it by saying, "We must make every place a bit nicer every day." Talk about a light bulb moment. It takes the whole conversation from just, "Hey, don't litter," to actively improving the spaces we actually occupy.
And that perfectly encapsulates what we call collective responsibility. Like Ratna Madam explained, the shared duty is that when it comes to any place, we need to leave it better than we found it. It completely shifts our default civic mindset, moving away from, well, that's not my job, straight into, this is our shared space.
Part 4, making places nicer every day. Now, to make this abstract concept a bit more concrete for the kids, Ratna Madam brings up an everyday analogy. She asks if they had noticed the electricians who recently came by to fix a classroom light. She uses them to prove that leaving a place better than you found it is just how true professionals operate.
Think about the steps they took. Step 1, before they even started working, they put paper down to catch the dust. They were anticipating the mess. Step 2, they drilled the necessary holes. And Step 3, before they called the job done, they cleaned up the space entirely. They didn't just leave their debris for the teacher or the janitor. They completely owned their impact on the environment.
Part 5. The power of collective action. Once that electrician analogy really clicks with the students, Ratna Madam just casually asks, "And what about the park?" A student named Akash speaks up right away and suggests they actually go back and clean it. And what's crucial here is that the kids aren't being forced to do this as a punishment. They are actively choosing to take ownership. So the very next Sunday, they head back to the park for 3 hours. They played their games, successfully binned all their lunchboxes, but then they went way above and beyond. They actively cleaned up the litter left behind by other people. They literally left that park spotlessly clean, fully living out that principle of leaving a place better than you found it. The fallout this time was a whole lot better. That same park manager who sent the angry complaint, he wrote a brand new note to the principal with new photos simply stating, "You teach your children well." The local press even picked it up. They ran a feature titled, "Children Cleaning Mess Left by Adults." So you can bet the principal's initial shame was totally wiped away by what those kids achieved.
The universal takeaway. So what does this all mean for us? Well, the big takeaway here is the undeniable power of modeled behavior over spoken rules. We could put up a million posters and point fingers all day long, but until we model taking ownership of our spaces, just like Ratna Madam refusing to let her student clean the blackboard, nothing is going to change. The kids only learn to respect the park after their teacher modeled that exact respect right there in the classroom.
Which brings us right back to you. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to sit with this question for a second. How are you applying everyday stewardship to make the spaces you occupy a bit nicer today? Are you waiting around for a custodian to fix things, or are you putting the paper down before you drill the hole? Think about your office, your local park, or hey, even your digital spaces. How can you leave them just a little bit better than you found them? Thanks so much for joining me today, and I really hope this sparks some great stewardship in your own life.